Right, we are now live. So, my name is Dawn Campbell. I'm your host, as usual, for this 30-minute session. Ask us anything about accreditation. And those of you who like to enjoy a cup of coffee, listening to a good conversation, you'll know I always have some lovely guests for you to tune into. And today is no exception. I'm joined by Joe Cantel. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, I should say welcome again. Joe was with us a little while ago, but I wanted her to come back because she's recently accepted a role within the IAPC&M as our member orientation manager. And we'll explain what that means in a little while. Joe is an accredited senior coach. She's also the co-founder of an accredited training provider. So she and I are ideally placed to answer your questions if A, you want to become a coach and or mentor. So if you want to train as a coach or mentor and add those communication skills to your existing skill set, then we can help you with that. Or perhaps you're wondering, how do I even hire a coach or mentor or get support from you guys? Well, we can talk about the fact that we've got a directory of international accredited, properly trained, insured, if the country offers insurance, best in class practitioners for you to choose from. And in fact, we do have a complimentary downloadable e-guide, how to choose your coach and or mentor and how to choose your training provider, because it's an equal relationship. So you need to do your due diligence. You need to interview the shortlist that you've got. Maybe you are a coach and or mentor and this whole accreditation has just completely passed you by because we're in an unregulated market and you're thinking, you know, it's something that clients are increasingly asking me about. Perhaps it's something I need to address and add it to my evidence portfolio. We can answer your questions around that. Likewise, you may be a training provider like Joe and her co-founder, Lisa. Maybe you're wanting to attract more international clients, make more money, train the next generation of great coaches, and make a difference. Accreditation will increasingly help you achieve that. Particularly if you're a university where you've got league tables and international students are checking one university coach training course against another. So I think that's kind of typically the audience that we have questions from, Joe. Gillian, my VA, is online and she will keep us posted of any questions. We don't get a huge amount of questions. But we do get a lot of lovely comments about that was a really interesting call, liked hearing about that. Oh, I didn't know you could be a coach in that, or I didn't know I could be coached in that subject. So let's see what comes out of today's conversation. And I always like to start these sessions by asking what fills your heart with joy outside of work. So perhaps you could just give us a recap for anybody who didn't hear when you were here on this call a couple of weeks back.
So what fills my heart with joy? Well, I'm going to say my cats, because I have 2 rescue cats. So playing with them absolutely fills my heart with joy. But also I would say dancing as well. I'm still working as a Zumba instructor 1 day a week. That was my background was health and fitness. So I've taught it for over 13 years. So I think actually connecting, I actually teach a group of ladies, all who are, I would say, in the sort of slightly more mature years, and they're just a delight. They're just a joy to teach every week. So yeah, dancing, I think, because it's all about connection.
Yeah, and movement, and cats are about movement as well. I mean, they don't tend to sit still, do they? They're always stretching and what have you. And what a great way to stress at the end of a busy day, playing with a little fur ball.
Absolutely. Well, it depends if the radiator's on, whether they move or not. So yes, yeah, they can be sort of like very, very much kind of like glued to the radiator and have been over the last few months. But now we're starting to get a little bit more action out of them now that the weather's turning a little bit warmer.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've forgotten you'd said about the Zumba. And I think movement is really important, particularly for coaches and mentors, where we're sat working with clients a great deal of time. I'm an audit walking instructor coach, so I can coach on outside while we're walking. And I find that really, really beneficial because the movement releases the energy that's trapped, and the emotion seems easier to flow. So I guess what I'm saying is, if we include movement in either our day or our weekly schedule, as practitioners, that's got to be quite nurturing and a good thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the more I've gone into this sort of coaching journey, the more I've understood the sort of somatic benefits it has. And with my background in fitness, I mean, it's just such a natural thing for me to do, is to work out and find a workout that I love. That's the key thing. I spent years trying to pursue that impossible dream of kind of like having, the best body shape, and really punishing my body. And that only created more stress. And of course, it was feeding a narrative that, of not being good enough and all of that. Going on the coaching journey allowed me to say, well, actually, why don't I work with my body and just tune into what that loves, to do? And it loves to move, it loves to dance. So it may be between coaching calls, I might get up and have a dance in between, and it helps to raise my energy and, and just to, again, shake off any kind of energy I might be. I have a little trampette, which I adore. And so I'm just jumping up and down. I actually tried my first session of Nordic walking last year, which I really loved, because I love to get out in nature. But equally so, I love lifting weights as well. So, or yoga. So it's all about working intuitively, like we do with the mind as well. So moving intuitively, and we can't get past the mind body connection. So if you, again, it is that if you feel good doing whatever you love to do, then you'll do good.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've got a rebounder in my office as well, but it kind of doubles up as a coffee table. And I keep meaning to get on it. And the dogs used to lie on it, and I keep meaning to clear it, but it just seems to be a little bit of a dumping ground for me. I do set my alarm on the hour, and I think, well, I have 5 minutes on the rebounder because I know it's accumulative. It's so good for you. It's good for everything unless you've got something like bone cancer. Then, everybody should rebound. And you can do it in front of the TV or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just find myself stepping over it, I must confess.
Maybe this could be a new kind of commitment then, to step on it as well. As you say,
Yes,
even if you
yeah,
just,
yeah.
I love watching things like, different little 5-10 minute videos on, online. And it might be a motivational video, and you could just hop on and so, but you got to make it easy for yourself. So take the
Yeah,
take the stuff off and put it there where you can actually get access to it as well. And like everything, it's a habit, isn't it? We cultivate those habits.
it is. That's a great idea about watching something on YouTube, because I've got so many browser pages open. I think I'll watch that tonight. And then I'm too tired at the end of the evening. And then tomorrow I think, oh, that looks interesting. Or I must read that, or I must watch that. And then before I know it, the whole bar at the top is just like 100
Yeah.
odd. Then periodically, once every 6 months or so, the system crashes, and I think, oh well, I didn't get around to reading it. It couldn't have been that important. But that's a nice commitment for me, actually, to do it daily using my rebounder. So it kind of, I don't want to say kills two birds with one stone, because I don't like that, but would be a better way of two goals in one go type of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I guess like a lot of people, and I do try, and because of the mindfulness aspect, I do like doing two things at once. So if I go for a walk, I do like listening to an audiobook. So that
Mm.
again fulfills that purpose, because like you, I've always got a ton of stuff I want to listen to, a ton of stuff I want to watch, and then what do I do? And so I think it's, for me, just taking those little snippets where I can perhaps watch a little video, hop up and down. Because I think the thing is when you're a coach and you're sat down a lot, and I do have a standing desk as well. So if I know I'm on, for example, a lot of
Yeah.
calls, or I'm on an all-day workshop, which has become the norm these days, I will use my standing desk and just be shifting from side to side, because I found during lockdown, I sat down a lot and my body stiffened up so much. even with the sort of movement I was doing, it just because it was just not used to that. So again, I think it's about being mindful of what you're doing with your body, because that is going to impact your mindset. And I noticed my energy levels were dropping, and I'm used to having a lot of energy, and that I think those little timeouts that we can take are good for us mentally and physically.
Hence the saying, sitting is the. I think Joe's just frozen
No,
there.
so
Did you hear
I
me?
missed that
Sitting is
because
the
I
new smoking.
yes, yeah, exactly. And I'm very, and of course we've got the watches now that's kind of like go pop pop every hour, don't they?
Yeah. So there was something that I was just going to say about oh yeah, so I treated myself to a stand-up desk. It's electronic, so I just press a button and it just goes up and down, which I found much easier than moving everything off to my old stand-up desk, which is the camera, the speaker, etc. So I suppose in a way I've got even lazier now. I just press a button. But it was a treat. It's a beautiful big white desk that's electronic. And yeah, so I am committed to moving a little bit more, even just doing some shoulder shrugs and just standing up, squatting, and then sitting down is better than nothing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, my standing desk at the moment is under my desk because I'm still at the stage where I have to take everything off my desk before I can, and then pop it on. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk a little bit about your role. I mean, you're a training provider, you run various businesses and you've got different courses. I know you're super passionate about paying it forward and supporting others. So it was a no-brainer for you to take on the role of member orientation manager at the IAPC&M. What
Yeah.
attracted you to the role? Let's just have a conversation around why it was important for you to add that. Because you know what they say, give a busy woman something to do and they'll find time to fit in something else. And what do you think you bring to the table? Because this is a brand new role, so you're going to make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved with the IAPC&M as an accredited coach probably for about 18 months to 2 years. No, I think it's about 18 months now. And being in the coaching industry, I think it's, what I became aware of was these kind of different standards of coach training. And there were the coaches that just, they seemed to be at that higher level of quality. And then there was, then there was everybody else. And I didn't want to be in the everybody else. I wanted to be at that standard of quality because at the end of the day, it's about client care. It's about, keeping me safe, keeping them safe, making sure I'm giving the best quality service. And that was by joining the IAPC&M. That's something that I had that standard to aim at because I had the training about what was expected of me, which is great because I was given that sort of North Star. And I think there's so many coaches out there, they're doing various different standards of training. And then they come out with their qualification and it's like, well, okay, so am I doing this right? Am I not? Things like contracting, for example, that was something I didn't really know about. It was a lot of guesswork around that. And it was only then when, I started to go through the process. I knew a little bit about it because, like you say, my business partner is Lisa. She had already gone through the accreditation process, so obviously very much led by her as well. But so even something basic like that, which again is put in place to protect your client and yourself, and to have a very clear understanding about what is expected out of the agreement when you work together. So just something basic like contracting was a revelation to me. And so the reason why I wanted to take on this role, which was all about introducing new members to everything that the IAPC&M has got to offer and really helping them navigate, because you've got like tons, there's so much available. And that in itself can become an issue because it can become very overwhelming for a new person because they're like, I'm just getting my qualification and and then there's all this other stuff. And so I'm there as that sort of person who's just going to help hold their hand, wrap an arm around them and just navigate it. And I think for me, it's so important that they understand what they have available and that they're not on their own,
Mm.
and that they have, yes, they've got their qualification, and then somebody's going to be there to say, and this is what you need to do, this is where you need to go, and actually you can look at that masterclass and that's going to teach you this. It's going to be valuable business building information here. But then if you want extra training, if you want to specialize in a particular area, for example, then we can point you in the right direction. And if you need some support, because you're going through something, guess what, we can point you in the direction of that. If you want to get coached, we can point you in the direction of where you can get coached, and know that that coaching is going to be of a good standard and quality for you as well, because it's a bit of a minefield out there.
It is, isn't it? Especially in the UK, as you know, I'm not in the UK, and I see that there's something like 130,000 people calling themselves coaches, and it really rose after COVID, where people added coaching, whatever their existing title was. And it's, let's face it, coaching isn't rocket science. It's relatively easy to add it to your toolkit, because it's about having a good conversation. But it doesn't mean, if you're not properly trained, if you haven't served your apprenticeship, if you haven't had a mentor or a supervisor in a study buddy group, you've not had the exposure to the increasingly complex and sophisticated needs that clients are presenting these days. And that's where coaches who are not properly trained, who are not independently accredited and assessed, can, potentially damage the industry.
I think the thing is you don't know what you don't know. And Lisa actually commented on a post, or she pointed out a post the other day, or I think she Googled it or something. And it says, actually, to be a coach, you don't need to train. You just need to be able to have a chat. And I don't know if coaching is actually particularly easy, because we train new coaches all the time. And one of the most difficult things for coaches is just to do that active listening. And be in that non-judgmental space. That is probably the most challenging thing for most people, because a lot of people have the wrong idea about what coaching is. They think the coaching is a bit like a sports coach, where they're on the sidelines like, oh, yeah, you can do it. And we know that's not coaching. We don't need to give the answers to our clients. They've got the answers inside of them. We're the facilitators to hold the space. And that, I do think, is a skill set. And I know that it's something I'm continuously working on, is, to upgrade my ability and the value and the quality of my coaching. And that's what holds that container, which allows for the transformation. And it absolutely is about that do no harm. Because if you're approaching it from that space, if you know the standards. Obviously, we've got the core capability, the core competencies, that again are made available to any member who join, any student that joins, and they can go through each one of those classes that you guys have recorded, and they can kind of check in with themselves, go, oh yeah, actually, yeah, maybe that's something that needs tightening up for me. That's something I hadn't thought of. Because, when I did that in preparation for my accreditation, I learned huge amounts, and I'm just about to go into my master accreditation. I will be going back through all of those classes. So I don't know, I don't think coaching is particularly easy. I think it requires skills, and I think in terms of the quality that is out there right now, there are a lot of people who don't know what they don't know, so they could be doing harm, although there's no intention to. It's clumsy. They're being clumsy because they're ignorant.
Yeah. And I hear a lot of people say they're coming into coaching because they like listening to people, they like giving advice, they like helping people. And we know all of those things are not the way coaching works. And I agree with you, it's not easy, usually because people don't even know themselves. When I say it's not rocket science, I mean from a technical point of view, because we have all these skills, we just don't necessarily use them. We don't listen intuitively. We don't ask open questions. We don't tend to facilitate an open conversation because closed means it's over and done with quickly as you're passing somebody in a corridor. Are you okay? Yeah, great. Okay, move on. is very, very different to asking, how are you today? And actually making yourself available and giving that person space and being present to answering. So you're absolutely right. For a lot of people, it's very habit changing and it takes a lot of practice, which I think is why the supervision, the mentoring, the study buddy, apprenticeship stage is so important. And I think also there are lots of people out there who, with the best of intentions, want to add coaching to their skill set, but it is to enhance their communication, because we know that the quality of our communication determines the quality of our life. So, our whole life improves in every aspect if we take on board coaching skills. And I was having a very good conversation with a chap called Anish. He's coming back in May, I think it is, maybe May the 1st from memory. And he was asking me, when we do our assessment, do we challenge our applicants? What does it mean to be a coach? Is it an embodied experience, as in you don't just think, right, it's 2 o'clock, I've got a coaching session, put my coaching hat on, grab my top 50 coaching questions, now I'm going to be a coach. That's not coaching either.
No.
It's something that you embody. And yeah, it's a really interesting subject. What does it mean to be a coach? I think that's a really challenging conversation we should be having with more practitioners. And you're ideally placed because you're training the next generation of great coaches.
I think you're absolutely right. And the interesting thing we always see in our coach training is, I think people come in thinking it's going to be an academic experience, and it's not. It is, of course, you're learning academically what it takes to be a coach, to dot the I's and cross the T's, but actually it's experiential. Because when they come into training, they're being coached, they're practicing, they're swapping sessions, they're learning the processes of being a coach. And what comes up for them, of course, is the limiting beliefs and getting to know themselves, that self-awareness, and it really surprises them because they're going through that embodying process and they're transforming within the coach training container. And that can be a surprise for a lot of people of maybe what's down there, what's buried, what they've been suppressing for all these years. But what comes out, of course, is that liberating feeling of understanding what it means to really transform, and then what they have in their hands, those abilities, to be able to help other people as well. And when you say that it actually, the quality of your communication affects the quality of your life, one of the areas that I have found that being a coach has really helped me is in networking events. So as somebody who is a business entrepreneur, I used to go to other networking events. I hated them because I thought I used to have to talk about myself the whole time and sell myself, and I hated it. And I hadn't done networking for a little while because of that experience, but I've started going more recently. And it's really interesting because embodying that idea of, what it takes to be a coach, I'm like, well, most people just want to be heard. Let me just sit and listen. Let me ask a question and let me just sit and listen. And it's actually much more enjoyable, because this is who I am now. I sit back and I listen. I ask a question and I listen. And that has improved the quality of my networking, which of course improves the quality of my rapport with people. And there's not that sort of sense of having to sell myself. So actually and of course we know also in other relationships, it's going to have that impact too. But that was a real surprise to me. I was like, oh, actually, I'm really good at networking now because I know these skills.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how you can change a belief system so easily like that? And you're absolutely right as well, because most coaches will say, and most therapists, most entrepreneurs will say they hate sales. But actually, if they just considered it as another conversation, and that's what I meant about not rocket science. You hit the nail on the head saying, we're not academic, it's experiential. So that's what I want to get across to people, particularly as a dyslexic myself. So that's my superpower, that I wouldn't be drawn to something where I've got to write a thesis and lots of essays and, transcribe role plays and all the rest of it. I like it to be experiential. I like to be talking. I like to be having conversations, equal relationship type discussions. And Yeah, so that's really good for you to highlight that. So for me, as a business development person, I sales doesn't phase me at all because it's just a conversation. And when coaches get over that mindset, that's limiting belief, which they need to promote themselves, it's the same as you saying the networking. It's all one and the same, isn't it? It's just a conversation.
Yeah, just getting to know people. And so if somebody comes in to do coach training, no one's saying they have to come and be a coach, because they can then bring those skills into whatever area that they're working in. So they could be working in corporate, working with the teams of people, working in other. I mean, I don't think there's a limitation to how those coaching skills can benefit you in any walk of life, whether you choose to go down the coaching route or not. Because it is just about understanding more about yourself and understanding about how other people tick as well.
Yeah, I've just finished reading a great book. Finished it this morning. Feelings Buried Alive and Never Die. So suppressed, repressed, squashed, denied emotions, they will pop up later on.
Uh,
And in it says the most difficult conversation that human beings will ever have is the one with themselves.
yes.
If they
Yeah.
don't like to talk about feelings. And this is why we're so desensitized with social media, Netflix, whatever it is. We don't want to sit and spend any time with us and work out what really is going on internally. So fascinating
Yes.
book.
I
Mm,
think it's why, I mean, obviously, in one sense, mindfulness has really, again, become much more mainstream, hasn't it? And because we're trying to balance this sort of stress and anxiety that everybody is feeling. But yeah, actually, for most people, it's the most challenging thing, to just sit and be, because
mm,
people don't want to be with their feelings. And I think actually from the whole coaching
no.
journey, that's one of the things that I've learnt, is to really quiet my mind and be able to have a conversation with myself and kind of figure out, for the most part, what's going on. And wonder why I'm feeling that. Wonder what's happening there. And if I can't figure it out, then I know some really good coaches that can help me.
Yeah. And of course, it's a great opportunity to become your own best client, isn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
if a client presented this issue that I'm going through, how would I help them through it? How would I
Absolutely.
inspire, guide, motivate, coach, mentor, whatever? What questions would I be asking? I'll just check. Gillian says we've got a question from Brian. So how does accreditation help to add value and quality to my coaching?
Do you want me to answer that one?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So from my experience, in terms of adding quality, um, the whole accreditation process for me was about upgrading my skills, because one of the things that I did was take myself through all of those 11 core competency videos, and I was really on it in terms of what it took, what those competencies were, practice those competencies before I went into my assessment. And it's a live assessment, which, can be a little bit intimidating, but we all know David's a pussycat. So it's okay, in terms of the act, because he wants you to succeed. So he's going to, be supportive. But they can seem a little bit intimidating, but because you've got to go through that process, it's like case studies. When you get to the end of a lot of your certifications, a lot of people don't like doing case studies, but actually that's where you learn the most, is in the case studies.
Mhm.
And so that brought in that quality. And with that quality, because I knew, suddenly I was like, yeah, these were details that I had missed. I didn't understand about maybe those, powerful, challenging questions, use of self. Perhaps I didn't know that, direct communication. Perhaps I wasn't really fully aware of that. Okay, I'm aware of that now. That brought the quality up and brought my confidence up. So, the confidence and that
Mhm.
sort of a surety, and people buy confidence. So when you're in front of a prospect, and you're in front of a client, I think it was one of the videos that said a client will never go where you don't believe that they can go. And that's it. You hold that confidence for your client until they hold it for themselves. And that was so important. So that's why, for me, the whole accreditation process helped the quality of my coaching, helped the quality of, how I showed up, with my clients. So I could say, absolutely, I'm here. I'm good. I've done the due diligence. I know what I'm doing here. And in terms of, I think he had like a secondary question in terms of what accreditation
The
does out there
value.
in the value out there in the
How does it
marketplace.
add value?
Yeah, how does it add value? For me, again, it's that stamp of quality. There are, as you say, was it 130,000 people calling themselves coaches? What's going to, I mean, we could talk about strategy and say what differentiates one coach from another. But the thing that differentiates people is the quality, and it's the quality of their communication, their confidence in terms of, what makes them at that level. And it's because going through that accreditation process, and then you've got that certificate to say you're accredited, so you have that independent eyes on you. It's that independent eyes saying, yeah, actually, this person has met those standards. They're at an accredited level. And then it could be, it can be broadcast, then it can be marketed, then you can put that stamp up on your social media to say, I am an accredited coach. So that builds trust in the audience. They'll go, this person's gone through a certain level of process, a process to reach a certain standard. And there are, quality will never go out of fashion. I'm sure that's a quote from somebody. So it's as much about your confidence, but it's about the public confidence as well. And people are out there looking for quality, because there are so many. How do you differentiate? Well, quality's got to be one of the first things you look for.
Yeah, no, very well said. And what I would add to that is that David's team are very good at matching the right assessor to the applicant. So if you're, as David calls me, very woo-woo. So if we get anybody on the spiritual side, I'm probably going to be somebody who will be an assessor. If somebody's very academic, then we know it's going to be David. And then we've got other people who are going to fit in with other people in the team. But because we're capabilities driven, I know you've talked about the core competencies, but because we're capabilities driven, it's a very holistic approach to assessing somebody's ability, their capability to deliver what they say they can deliver. It's fast, it's accurate, it's holistic, and that makes it inclusive as well. So you don't have to be an academic to go through the accreditation process. We have a portfolio route, which is a sort of catch-all for everybody who has not come through an accredited training provider, who maybe learned on the job in a corporate environment, or you've been in the forces and you don't have all the criteria, the testimonials and things, because you are paid by the forces or a corporate employee to support the team. So it's well worth looking at the criteria and understanding that because it's capabilities based and it's based on the conversation that you can have, which is coaching conversation, then that's the accurate determination or determiner, rather than can you write a thesis? Have you got 20 testimonials? Et cetera, et cetera. The very little written work that we ask people to do is sign the professional code of conduct, fill out the standards and ethics questionnaire, and do a self-reflection on your live coaching and or mentoring assessment call. It really is the conversation that we're most interested in, and that's the beauty of our assessment process. That's why members love it. And it's always scary putting yourself through an assessment, isn't it? I mean, I still do it. Most of us are perpetual students, and we add different skills to our, toolkit, and we get assessed, and none of us like it. But we've introduced, more support through tapping. So if you have crippling anxiety about an assessment, then we've got somebody who can help you with EFT. Petra, Joe, myself, there's lots of us in the team. So you don't have to worry about anything. As Joe said, we're not here to trick you. We want you to do well. So if you think you're a great coach and or mentor, then consider adding accreditation to your evidence portfolio, like you do your insurance, your certificates, your testimonials, etc. Because it is increasingly what the public are asking for when they're looking. Are you an expert in your field? How do I know you're an expert? Have you written a book? Do you have a masterclass? Have you got a speech? Are you accredited, etc., etc.? So all of those things help the public identify you as the person they want to work with. I'm just conscious of the time, Joe. What, if anything, did you want to add?
I think in a marketplace where there is so much choice, you have to be the person that stands out. And what accreditation will teach you as much as anything is a level of professionalism, the way you deal with it, from the way you deal with your inquiries to the way that you conduct yourself in a coaching session to how you follow up. And that again is a confidence builder. I'm sure that we've all been on the receiving end of, we've made an inquiry to somebody and they've handled our inquiry badly, unprofessionally, haven't followed up, whatever. And that's put you off the service. So it's the professionalism as well that's going to give people just that edge.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I believe how we do anything is how we do everything.
Yeah.
So that's why it's an embodied experience. You know, you don't just pick up the phone and think, right, I've now got to put on my nice voice and be polite, etc. It is how you do everything. And professionalism is, you know, really, really key to attracting the right people that you want to work with, because that's the whole point of being a solo or entrepreneur, isn't it? That you now have the opportunity to do what you want in the way that you want it, with the people that you want, that fill you with joy. So as Nick Williams says, you do the work you're born to do, and if you do, you'll never work another day in your life.
Yeah, definitely.
So on that note, Joe, I will let you go, and thank you again for joining our dedicated team, committed to being a force for good for the international community. And Joe has a drop-in clinic on the second Tuesday of every month, which is dedicated to helping new members, but not just new members, because sometimes you, as Joe pointed out, you could be a member for a year or two, but feel overwhelmed with the amount of resources and support that is available to help you develop your business acumen. So if you want to know a little bit more about the £16,000 worth of benefits as it is right now, that's predominantly complimentary. So if we put everything in front of you, that's what it's worth. So please take advantage of Nikki's drop-in business clinic, Joe's drop-in orientation clinic. You know, she'll help you navigate the secure members area and download all those very valuable resources and point you in the right direction of the right master classes and so on. So Joe, before we finish, what have you got coming up with your own business, either independently or with Lisa, that we need to know about?
So the next thing that we've got scheduled is going to be a virtual business strategy day, which is taking place next Tuesday. It's in person, but we've got virtual spaces available.
Yeah.
So it's online. It's a whole day of business strategy and money mindset and energy work. And then at the end, on the 23rd, we've got an EFT money manifesting and mindset workshop, which is all online as well. So if people want to, you know, release some money blocks and beliefs using EFT and mindset and energy work, then that's what we've got coming up.
That's a whole other subject, but boy, it's one that coaches struggle with, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're talking about sales. That'll be yeah. You're talking about sales there.
Yes.
I mean, that's, you know, that's something I teach to our clients. You know, heart-centered selling is another area that I teach.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, thank you for your time, Joe. It was lovely to spend time with you again today. It's kind of like feast or famine. We've had a lot of time together recently. So
We have, yes.
all the best for next Tuesday. Please do promote it on the members area, won't you? And the private groups, and encourage as many people as possible to take advantage of that one and the money mindset one. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
I'll say goodbye, everybody. Thank you, Joe. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.